when you give feedback to someone on your team, they'll often get defensive. They'll become resistant and sometimes defend their position by disagreeing with you about what actually happened. Maybe it was a sales call that you're giving feedback about. They'll argue about it. There's good reason for this. When you give negative feedback, it makes people feel embarrassed. But more than embarrassment, it's something I realized, I think recently, when I was coaching someone, more than embarrassment, what they actually feel is shame. Shame that someone's pointing it out, shame that they aren't as good as they thought they were, or shame they've made a mistake. And shame is a horrible emotion, right? Shame says you're a bad person, and none of us want to feel like a bad person. Peter Bregman, in his book, You Can Change Other People, he says, think about guilt. Guilt says, I did a bad thing, but it's a bad thing versus being a bad person. So none of us want to feel like bad people. So we'll deny what actually happened because no problem, no shame. So shame happens no matter how nicely, how carefully you deliver the feedback. It's always going to be a challenge. So the good news is you've got two options as a manager. You can deliver feedback through the windshield or the rearview mirror. And this is how we think about giving feedback. The rearview mirror, think about the size of the windshield and the size of the rearview mirror. The rearview mirror is always looking backwards. It represents the past. It looks back on things the person has done. The challenge is there's nothing they can do to change that behavior. That's behavior is not changing it, but it doesn't mean they're not going to defend it. They will defend that behavior and argue about it. So you want, if possible, deliver feedback through the windshield. So I'm thinking if it's not an HR related issue, if it's not a really bad thing, if it's a sales coaching, deliver the feedback through the windshield, because the windshield represents the future. That way you can talk about things that haven't happened yet, or you can talk about the next pitch. All things are possible. They've done nothing wrong. So there's no reason for them to be defensive. So remember this, people change best by feeling good, not by feeling bad. So the next time you want to help a team member adjust a behavior, you have to give them a chance to think about the problem and coach themselves through it. So here's my recommendation. Next time you want to help someone change a behavior, use this lovely little phrase. I've been using this 3, 4, 5 years now. It's really helpful and it's forward focused. I say, one of the things we're working on is, and it's one of those phrases they can't really disagree with. If you're on a team and you say, one of the things we're working on is setting an agenda before we do discovery, or doing discovery before presenting, or if it's a safety issue or a timekeeping thing. One of the things we're working on is, it doesn't matter, the sentence is hard to disagree with. It doesn't cast any blame. It doesn't make you feel embarrassed or shameful about anything. So one of the things we're working on is making sure we learn enough about the client's situation before presenting. Let me demonstrate how I would conduct discovery before presenting. Then we'll get you to try it. Or you can introduce the topic and go a bit deeper on the coaching. Say, hey, one of the things we're working on is making sure we set an agenda before doing discovery. If you had to rate yourself 0 to 10, 10 being the best and 0 being the worst, where are you at for setting an agenda before doing discovery? And then they'll say, oh, I'm a 6 or a 7. Hopefully you don't say 10. If they say 10, ask them to rate themselves for humility, because 10, difficult to coach. But if they're reasonable and they say I'm a 6 or a 7, just say, well, what do you have to do to become a 7 or an 8? And have them coach themselves through it and then practice. Because practice, come on, it's the breakfast of champions. Practice it. But that's it. Remember that. Try and not make them feel embarrassed or ashamed. Talk about the future. So one of the things we're working on, and your coaching is going to improve dramatically. Good luck.